All right, piss and vinegar day 57. Chest and, shoulders and biceps. Yes, correct. Shoulders are getting stronger and stronger and stronger, especially on the dumbbells. Barbells, not as much. Dumbbells, very much so. I'm basically overhead pressing 70 kilos for 9 or 10 reps here. But today's topic is vitamin D3. So I'm thinking, the topics are going to be life-related a lot of times. They're going to be advice. They're going to be whatever. Because I know demographic-wise, I think it's like average age is 15 to 23 that watches these. I'm 26, and so, just bestowing sort of older brother knowledge of sorts to the younger generations when narrating these videos, because otherwise it's just going to get stale, repeating the same technique cues and things that I do through my training. So today is vitamin D3. So a lot of people are very deficient in vitamin D3. The reference ranges that you get when you get blood tests are off. It's like anything else, right? So let's say with testosterone, right? The reference range now is 280 to 1100. The average testosterone 70 years ago was like 900 to 1100. So testosterone has dropped, so thus they just change the goalpost. They make 280 the new hypergonadal. Same thing with vitamin D3. You can go in there with the borderline deficiency in vitamin D3, and they'll say, yeah, no problem, you're healthy, no worries, all good, even though you're like a fucking one UI from being deficient. They'll say you're fine. So they'll say you're fine, but they won't tell you that you're optimal or not. So doctors don't give a shit about optimal. They care about just general minimalistic practice. So a lot of times people think that vitamin D3 is fine because they go to the doctors. And that's another point. A lot of people don't go to doctors. People don't get blood tests, and they don't know where they're at. Earlier this year I got blood tests done. I get it every 6 months to see where I'm at. Turns out my kidneys were failing because I was consuming too much vitamin D3, and I was drinking a shit ton of aspartame drinks. So that's another thing with vitamin D3. You can't have too much of it. I was supplementing with vitamin D3. I was megadosing it for about 6 years straight, which you're not supposed to do, but I was getting good gains from it. And my kidneys were, not necessarily failing, but they were in extremely high range with like different kidney function, like albumin and creatinine and stuff like that, which of course they're going to be higher anyway because I'm a muscular man on average compared to the average. But you can't take too much vitamin D3, and ideally you should get vitamin D3 through the sun. You should be getting a tan. You should be getting out in the sun and getting your tan on. Obviously, depending on your genetic predispositions, you need to be careful. If there's skin cancer in your family, you don't want to go too crazy. If you're like Finnish or something, like super Scandinavian, then don't get as much sun as a West African. But you should be getting plenty of sun on a regular basis. And if it's winter or you live in a cold area like Scandinavia or Ireland or Scotland or whatever, where it's cold most of the year, cloudy most of the year, not much sun most of the year, low UV most of the year, you should be probably supplementing with vitamin D3. And you should be taking it for about 60 to 90 days and then cycle off for about a month and then cycle back on. Of course, get blood tests. Of course, this advice is under the guidance of your doctor. I am simply just giving friendly advice, just as a disclaimer. But you want to probably be taking vitamin D3 unless you live where I live, which is Australia. And even then, in Australia, in the cold months where I live, it's very cloudy. There's not much sun. So vitamin D is supplemented with. On top of that, vitamin D taken in megadoses can have a lot of different benefits. Vitamin D3, for one, is not a vitamin. It's actually a hormone. We just classify it as a vitamin for whatever reasoning. I don't really know, can't remember. But it is actually a hormone. So it is far more powerful than, say, vitamin C or vitamin E, A, etc. It is responsible for so many different functions in the body, including anabolic functions. So it will increase your test, it will increase your anabolism, and it will increase things like bone growth and hair growth. So not just muscular growth, it will also increase your bone growth. If you're trying to get a better, stronger, more masculine face, or facial features or better hair growth or what have you, you should be supplementing with vitamin D at high levels. Again, cycled and monitored. Make sure that you don't damage your kidneys, because vitamin D will calcify your kidneys. But as I said, you should be getting bloods every 6 months, even as a young man, just to know where you're at. And you use bloods as an experiment to figure out what is happening with supplementation and training. Are you eating enough to sustain decent testosterone levels? Are you eating a well-balanced diet to sustain correct testosterone, thyroid, etc.? You should be absolutely getting a blood test every 6 months, which might be my next video's topic. But for today, vitamin D3. So if you're not already getting lots of sun, if you have no sun, supplementing with D3, you should be. When you take your D3, take it with fat solubles, because it is a fat soluble hormone or vitamin. And you should be eating it with high fat content. Otherwise, it will store into your own fats and become toxic. So you should be taking it with fats, and anywhere between 4,000 to 10,000, depending on your base levels and where you want to go. I mean, I've taken upwards of 60,000 units before. I wouldn't advise this to anyone, technically, because it would be very bad advice and dangerous advice. But if you were really trying to grow your bones, you might want to stack vitamin K2 and D3 together and get some big bone growth. And if you want to take the unnatural option, which I haven't done, although one day I might, I don't know. I'm not really into the idea of limiting myself to not taking MK677. Now, if I ever take this stuff, I'll be transparent with everybody, obviously. But MK677 is a SARM that increases bone growth. So if you stack MK677 with K2 and D3, you can get some tremendous bone growth. And I have 2 friends actually right now doing that sort of experiment. So between like chewing hard gum or a chew toy of sorts, like those George Sizers things, stacked with vitamin D3, you will see a prominent change in your facial structure. In fact, I've got proof of this exact same thing happening to me. I had a very recessed jaw at 20. I'm now 26. I don't have the craziest jawline now, but my jaw is significantly different. And I might make a video of that in the future, extrapolating on all these different kind of minor points. And that's part of why I want to do these topics, is that I can flesh out ideas to then make a further fleshed out video in the future on. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's probably more to vitamin D that I'm leaving out here, but if you want to optimize your bone growth, your muscular growth, your immune system, your hair, your skin, your nails, etc., you should have optimal D3 levels, including all the other vitamins, but today I'm really just focusing on that one. So yeah, I use Now Foods. Now Foods is the best supplement brand in my opinion. It's extremely affordable and cheap, but it is very well documented to be a great supplement to take. And one of the best ways of figuring out if a supplement brand is legit is you buy melatonin from them. And if the melatonin, you will know if it's legit because melatonin has a very blatant effect. You take melatonin, 5 minutes later you feel like you need to sleep, you're about to pass out, then of course this company is now making a good product. Now, obviously, they could make really good melatonin and a shit fish oil or something, but it is a decent marker of figuring out whether or not a supplement company is legitimate, because you take vitamin D, it's impossible to know it's working until you get bloods done. And as we know, doctors are fucking like soulless vampires, and they hate ever giving blood tests to anything under, an 80-year-old decrepit leper. They will vehemently test against the idea of getting bloods. They will always say, oh, you're a young man, you'll be healthy, blah, blah, blah. Well, you might not be, because earlier this year, my kidneys were literally failing due to my own incompetence, and my doctors would not give me a blood test. I had to make up a bunch of, allegedly, I had to make up a bunch of fake symptoms of low testosterone in order to get a full blood panel, which is another piece of advice. If you're having a hard time getting bloods done, allegedly make up some shit about, let's say you want to get your testosterone and everything checked. You would allegedly say, oh, I have erectile dysfunction and I'm depressed and I have all these different symptoms of hypogonadism, and then they will give you a blood test if they are being cunty about it. If they're being cunty about it, you should realistically just find a better doctor, a cooler doctor who's willing to work with you, or find a Asian or Indian doctor. They're typically more likely to work with you. They don't really give a shit. They just want the payday, right? So, yeah, if you want to get your bloods done and your doctor's being a dick about it, allegedly make up a bunch of shit so that they will give you a blood test done. It's immoral in a sense, but realistically, like, fuck them, dude. They're fucking you around, and they could potentially be missing out on life-threatening ailments. So anyway, that's it for today's rant. Vitamin D, extremely important, and on top of that, kind of, how to get a blood test if you really need it. Finishing off my biceps day, these carbs and this increased carbs is really doing a number on my my pumps and my physique. I am looking fucking big right now. I mean, you guys might not think I look really big right now, but relative to what I've looked like before, I feel kind of fucking juicy. I look big. So yeah, it feels good having carbs in my system. I have gained a lot of weight. I've gained 6 kilos, and I think it might still be going up, but that's fine with me. It's going to be a quick bulk anyway, so if I bulk hard all the way to 90 or something for summer and then do a cut, it's no biggie. It will be a kind of experiment to see how effective a short bulk is versus a long-term bulk. I'm doing my reverse hammer curls, or reverse bicep curls here. Getting crazy brachialis gains from doing these reverse curls. Now I'm doing some posing. Arms are looking pretty fucking big right now. Feels good. I'm getting some crazy arm vein development too, like in my triceps and shit. Like I'm getting like these weird like kind of veins that aren't. They're more like blood vessel veins. I don't know how to explain it. They're not like the main arteries. They're like smaller veins and they're popping out, which I've never had that before. Like I've always had the bicep brachialis or the brachial artery vein and like the wrist veins and shit, but I've never had this like kind of smaller veins that run throughout, like blood vessels or minor veins that pop out. So it's kind of nice seeing those, and it'll be cool to see what they look like when I get really lean throughout summer. Probably can't really see them on the camera, but they are popping out, and they're coming through my legs and shit too. So I think that's part of between increasing my carbs and being more muscular than I used to be. This pose, I didn't do this right. I need to bring my elbow up higher. Anyway, see you guys tomorrow. Piss and vinegar tomorrow. Bye-bye.